Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and this is what I wish they taught me about econometrics and introduction. In this video, we're going to look at common mistakes and interpretation traps that students face whenever they try to read confidence intervals. They are one of the most powerful tools in econometrics, but that does not clear out the fact that there are mistakes that usually come up while interpreting them in exams or in practice. So let's go through these mistakes one by one and make sure we iron out all of the concepts that we need to know about confidence intervals. The first common mistake is saying there's a 95% probability the true value is inside this interval. Let's be very clear. A 95% confidence interval does not mean that your true value is inside this interval with that probability, because the parameter is not random. The data is random, okay? So the correct interpretation would be that the procedure used to construct the interval captures the true parameter in 95% of repeated samples. Okay? So the randomness is in the interval, not the parameter. The second mistake, all values inside the interval are equally likely. Keep in mind, a confidence interval is not a probability distribution. Okay? It does not say the midpoint is most likely and the endpoints are less likely. It only says these values are not ruled out by the data at this confidence level. Okay? So the values are not ruled out at this confidence level by the data. Okay? So keep in mind, plausible does not mean equally likely. The third mistake, confusing statistical significance with importance. So a confidence interval can be very narrow, far from zero, and still reflect a small economical effect. Okay? So narrow plus far from zero and still reflect a small economic effect. The same way, it can be very wide, statistically insignificant, but still economically meaningful. Because confidence intervals help you see uncertainty and magnitude separately. And that's one of their strengths and why they are such a powerful tool in econometrics. Mistake 4, ignoring width of the interval. So many students sometimes focus only on like whether 0 is inside that interval. They completely ignore how wide that interval is, but width matters because basically what you're saying is that if you have wide intervals, there is lots of uncertainty. And imprecise estimates. While narrow intervals means more precision, more information. So keep in mind, precision is just as important as significance. The fifth mistake is forgetting assumptions. Confidence intervals rely on the same assumptions as hypothesis testing. Remember how we always do in hypothesis testing, where we say that this T star under the null has a T distribution and minus K minus 1. Well, when you are constructing a confidence interval, you're getting a critical value to construct it, you're getting standard errors. So if you want to trust the standard errors, and if you want to make sure that you're looking at the correct distribution, then you have to follow the same assumptions that you had followed in the hypothesis testing. And that means that if your model is misspecified, if the standard errors are wrong, your assumptions are failing, and the interval, even though it might look like very good and precise, it's going to be misleading, okay? This is why diagnostic tests and robustness checks are always important. Mistake 6, and the last one that we will see for this video, is comparing confidence intervals, and I'm going to add here incorrectly. Overlapping confidence interval do not automatically mean that there is no significance difference, okay? So overlapping confidence interval, not the same as no significant difference. Which also means, by the same sort of logic, that if you have non-overlapping intervals, it will not always imply that there is a significance difference. Comparisons usually require formal tests, okay? Instead. And confidence intervals are mainly descriptive, so not substitutes for every kind of hypothesis testing that you are trying to run, okay? So keep in mind, the best way to think about confidence interval is that they show you what the data allow and what they rule out, given uncertainty and assumptions. So what the data allow, what to rule out, given uncertainty plus assumptions. So if you were to take one key takeaway out of this video, it would be that, well, confidence intervals describe uncertainty around an estimate, not probability statements about the parameter itself, keeping in mind the parameter is not random. Hopefully with this video and with these common mistakes, you've managed to now have a clear view of the core tools of statistical inference. We had a mini arc on hypothesis testing, p-values, and we've concluded that mini arc with the confidence intervals. So the next step would be to move from tools to practice, how to read regression output properly and interpret results responsibly. So stay tuned, and I will see you in the next videos.